100 days is a long time, so I'm going to be surviving 100 days in Better Minecraft. Better Minecraft is a mod pack that pieces together over 200 different mods to make an entertaining and fun Minecraft experience. There are a ton of new bosses, items, and unique features, so I'm super excited to play them all. Can I survive the next 100 days and maybe get a massive dragon army? Well, you're gonna have to watch to the end to find out. Also, we're getting super close to 100,000 subscribers, so if you enjoyed today's video, then please consider subscribing. Anyways, let's begin this 100-day journey in Better Minecraft. I started this world off in a swampy looking biome. So like every single world, I started by chopping down a tree. I then crafted up the necessary wooden tools to survive, and after crafting up all the tools, I wanted to leave this swampy looking biome, so off I went, swimming out of the area. Once I got back onto land, I started running around even more. I found a tall looking building off in the distance, however, before I could get any closer to it, I started getting chased down by a dragon. This was terrifying, especially since I had no armor, and only wooden tools to defend myself. I had no chance against this thing, so I kept running and running until I found another building off in the distance. It was a house. I quickly ran over to it and went inside. I was now safe for a little while. Inside, I found a few bits of food from a chest and also some iron armor. This was very lucky. Feeling more prepared, I decided to go out and fight the dragon. And luckily, it got stuck on the house roof and couldn't attack me. So I quickly dealt with it, killing it within a heartbeat. After killing the dragon, I saw a grave out the front of the house, so I dug it out and stole all the items. That is so cruel. Anyways, moving on, I found some moo blooms and then decided to kill it. Running over to the tall looking building I found earlier, I found a graveyard right next to it, and like I did to the one out the front of the house, I did the exact same to these. I dug them all out, and it revealed some nice loot. I started day 2 off with a bang, by crafting up an iron axe and pickaxe. I was going to need some better tools, so I went over to the massive tower thing that I saw earlier, and as soon as I walked into it, I got an achievement. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting challenge. Going up to the stairs onto the first layer, it was actually pretty easy. I took on all the skeletons, and there was a chest of loot inside, so I looted it and moved on to the second layer. On the second layer, there was a spider spawner. I killed them all, located the chest on that layer as well, and looted it once again. I moved on to the third layer of the building, which was once again another skeleton layer. I took them all out, and then finally, I was ready to move on to the last layer of the building. Thinking this would be really easy, I moved on, and when I got up to the final layer, there was a Vex spawner. They got me down really low, but I had somehow managed to get out of there alive, and on top of the tower, there were some gold blocks to reward me. To spend the rest of the day, I remembered seeing another building close by to the house that I found earlier, so I decided to go over and see what the building was all about. Who knows, maybe I'll have a few neighbors around. Heading over there, it was a villager's home. I tried trading with him, and upon right-clicking the villager, it looked as though he wanted to trade some pretty interesting items. I'll be back for you, villager, don't you worry. You know, this may sound dumb, but I spent the majority of day 3 just looking for one simple farming item, and this is sugarcane. I just couldn't manage to find the sugarcane anywhere I went. Eventually, I found 2 sugarcane, but that wasn't going to be enough for what I needed it for. I continued looking around until finally, I found some more. I also found these weird looking fish. They literally have legs. And they can also walk on land too. What the heck? That's honestly so cool. I got home, planted the spare sugarcane that I didn't need at the time, crafted up a book, and went back to the villager. I bought both the weird crystal looking thing and the other book. Not having a clue what any of them did, I walked around for the rest of the day. I was admiring animals off into the distance until out of nowhere, a pillager came up behind me and took away most of my health. I quickly ran away, healed up, and took them on. Luckily, I survived and came back home. I decided I was going to need some farm setup, so I tilled some land and planted whatever seeds I had. I then decided to go and explore the land for a little while. I collected a few materials like coal and stone on the way, and running on top of the mountain, I found another house. I raided this house for whatever it had and just continued looking around. Shortly after, I actually found a village off into the distance, so I just decided to raid this village for everything that they owned. On the morning of day 5, I actually decided to do something different, and this was to move everything that I owned from all my chests at the previous house and move it to this village. I was going to relocate my home. I did this because not only did the villager area look a lot nicer with all the massive pumpkins and things, but I also had a villager nearby so I could make AFK farms later on if I ever wanted to, or maybe even simply trade with the villagers. After moving everything over to the new village, I decided I was going to take a look at the stone thing that I saw in the swamp nearby. Turns out there was a staircase going down. And going down the staircase, it looked like a dungeon or something. This village was stacked. Not only did they have a bunch of houses and tents on top, but they also had a whole living area underground as well. I spent the next couple of days down there collecting a bunch of materials from all the chests and breaking farms. Yeah, nothing too special. But I did manage to get a few cool items and materials though. I also trapped this little guy because apparently I could trade 5 ender dragon heads and a diamond pickaxe for a pickaxe that had efficiency and fortune 5. Seems like a very good deal if I say so myself. After raiding that underground dungeon thingo, I decided I wanted to use one of those maps that I previously got from a chest. So I ran around until I found the area it was supposed to be. After finding the area, I dug down, and at first I thought it must have been a faulty map until I fell down into a massive room with mob spawners on each side. I cleared out the first room, got a few interesting items, then moved on to the next. I actually got something called an Aether Dragon, so I just kept it, even though I didn't know what it was. I defeated the final room, and then made my way back home. The next morning, I decided I wanted to do something different once again, but before I did that, I got a name tag and went down to the villager dungeon thing and named the little trader guy, just in case he had a chance of despawning. Honestly, I have no clue what it even was in the first place. So after naming that trader guy, I collected the diamond horse armor and a saddle from my chest, and then went running around looking for a horse. Shortly after leaving, I actually found a pillager village right next to my village. I left that alone though because I was severely undergeared, especially with like 100 pillagers shooting their bows at you at the exact same time. After running for a little while longer, I didn't manage to find any horses. However, I did manage to find this massive building which had invisible skeletons. I have no clue how this happened. They nearly killed me, but I shot them back with my own bow. Yeah, that's right, skeletons. Have a piece of your own medicine. Since I couldn't find a horse, I came back home to mess around for a little bit. I decided to go over to the pillager village, and oh boy did I regret it. You see, I thought this was going to be some fun time with the pillagers. However, when 50 arrows a second is being shot at you, you will soon realize it actually isn't that fun. I came back home after fighting the pillagers for a bit and waited for it to turn nighttime. However, instead of sleeping, the game didn't let me do this. Apparently, there was a thing called a blood moon, and when the blood moon spawns, a ton of zombies spawn and it prevents you from sleeping. I have no clue. So on top of fighting all those pillagers, I was now forced to fight off mobs for another 10 minutes. This was just such a great day. I wanted to try my luck again with the horse, but sadly, I didn't find one. However, I did find one of those tower things, so I went up it and raided it. This one was extremely easy, and after that I came back home and started chopping down trees for a quick and simple build. With the newly obtained wood, I quickly built up some small hut things. Yeah, my building skills aren't too great, honestly. You could probably see this yourself. While I'm building this thing, I want you to take a guess in the comments what you think this build is for. I guess I'll heart the closest comments or something, I don't know. No cheating. If you guessed hatching the dragon egg, then you were correct. Congratulations. I spent day 16 AFKing and just waiting for the Aether Dragon to hatch. And finally, it actually hatched. And look at this thing. It looks so cool. I can't wait for it to grow up because I'll be able to fly this thing. Here's where things start to take their time. You see, I already had some alright gear. However, iron armor just wasn't going to hold up to the standards that we would require, fighting off all those mobs and other enemies. So I decided I was going to spend the next while down in the mines. I just couldn't find any diamonds for a large portion of this. So I continued running around for a bit, and I found an enchanted golden apple in one of the chests. Continued running around, eventually I found my first diamonds. I mined them up and crafted a diamond pickaxe. I also found something called frozen diamonds, so that's pretty interesting. It looks cool, but later on I found out that it's pretty useless. I just continued running around and around until I finally found all the diamonds necessary for what I needed. In total, I got about 36 diamonds. I also mined up 14 obsidian for both a nether portal and an enchant table, and then made my way back home. But of course, not everything can go perfect. You see, recordings day 28 to 40 actually corrupted, so from now until then, I will be reenacting everything that happened. So that's why some things may seem a little off. Hopefully you understand. Starting on day 28, I built up the nether portal and went through. Right next to my portal, there was a pigman spawner with a couple of chests. I was going to explore until I forgot to make my diamond armor. So I crafted it up, enchanted it with my enchant table. I then went back to the nether and started exploring. It was now time to start a new chapter of these 100 days, the nether. I ran around for a while, admiring all these new blocks and biomes. This new nether looks so cool. Anyways, besides that, I just ran around looking for the nether fortress. I was running and running until I accidentally stumbled across it. Once I found the nether fortress, I started looking around for a blaze spawner, but couldn't manage to find one, so I just killed all the blazes that would spawn around. At one point, multiple blazes were shooting their fireballs at me, so I kept dodging them and I felt like I was in the Matrix or something, I don't know. Anyways, after I got the blaze rods I thought I would need, I just started making my way back to the portal, and on the way, I found this really cool looking biome. It was a frozen magma biome or something. Not too sure what it was, but all I know, it was looking cool. Upon returning back home from the nether, I noticed how big my dragon has grown. But this still wasn't big enough to ride it. So I decided to make myself a diamond shovel, enchant it, and begin digging out another cave area under a hill. This was going to be a cave where I started my dragon army. I spent quite a while digging out this cave, and eventually I had completed it. Once I completed the new cave, I went and got all the dragon eggs that I currently owned, and placed them down in the cave, preparing them to hatch. Sticking to the digging and mining tradition, I dug out a smaller cave once again in the hill underneath my base. But this time it was going to be for storage, as the 3 chests that I had up the top, it probably wasn't going to be enough. And finally, once I had completed digging out the room out of the mountain, I moved everything that I owned down in the storage area. Thankfully, I had these backpacks, or it would have taken so much longer. Finally, after moving everything into the new storage area, it was time to do something else. You see, when I finished this, I saw my dragon had grown a lot, and was finally at the maximum size. So I went down to the lake next to my house, got a few fish, and tamed the dragon. I now had a pet dragon to do basically whatever I wanted with it. I gave the dragon a saddle and took him for a test drive. Man, I really just compared a dragon to a car right there. This was so cool, I could literally fly now. This was definitely going to come in handy. And with my newly obtained dragon, I decided to go get a good use from him. So I went back down into my storage area, collected all the maps that I had owned, and flew around. The first map was a dungeon map, so I dug down, fought off a bunch of mobs, and took all the loot. I spent the next like 8 or so days flying around to and from my base area on the dragon, trying to find another one of the structures on the map. But I was unsuccessful and didn't end up finding anything. I actually flew around 50,000 blocks, but better luck next time, I guess. So I slowly just came back home. Upon returning home, I checked the other dragons that I'd been trying to hatch, and turns out they were all grown, so I tamed them and gave them all a saddle. After taming all the dragons, I went back into the nether because I wanted to start preparing for the end fight, and I thought that Enderman would have a higher chance in spawning in the nether than the overworld. However, it looks like I was wrong because in the time I was in the nether, I didn't find a single enderman. So I came back home and waited for it to turn nighttime and started killing all the endermen I saw for their ender pearls. And on day 68, it was time to go fight the ender dragon. I ran using the Eyes of Ender locating the stronghold, and surprisingly, I only lost one eye in the process. Once I found the stronghold, I looked around and finally found the end portal. It was time for the ender dragon battle. I began by shooting out all the ender crystals, preventing the dragon from healing. I shot them all out and then moved on to the dragon. This fight went on for a while, but with the final few hits and bow shots, I managed to take the dragon down with ease. Remember earlier on in the video how there was a trade for 5 dragon heads in return for a Fortune 5 pickaxe? Well, yeah, we're going to do the deal. I ran around in the outer end islands looking for the end city. Luckily, I had already played the better end mod for another 100 days video before, so I exactly knew what to do. I raided all the end cities, taking their loot and their dragon heads, and then finally, once I had all the dragon heads, I came back home. And after coming back home, I made the trade with the goblin for the Fortune 5 Unbreaking 5 diamond pickaxe, and I came back up to the house. I added a few more enchant books to the pickaxe and made a god pickaxe, with pretty much every enchant I could get. And with the newly obtained god pickaxe, I went off to the nether to collect some netherite. And oh boy, this netherite was extremely easy to get. Every time I broke one block, it would break a netherrack in a 3x3 radius. So I quickly got all the ancient debris I would need and came back home once again. I spent this day smelting all the ancient debris and also listening to those new discs that I got from the end cities. The first one was pretty trash, but the second one wasn't too shabby. With the newly obtained netherite, it was time to make some good gear. I turned all my armor into netherite, and then combined a netherite ingot and 4 gold in the crafting table to get an upgraded version of netherite as well. And not to mention, it looked really nice. I also mined out another hole in the hill for my enchant table room. With my brand new pickaxe, I wanted to try and mine up as many diamonds as possible. So I went back down into the mines, mining up every single diamond ore that I found, and also fighting off some mobs. And oh boy, the end results were insane. We are now rich on diamonds. After pretty much wasting my time, I remembered the quest book I had from earlier. It told me to break some block at bedrock level, so I mined down and broke the block. It teleported me into a new area where the warden spawns. So I was basically forced to fight off a warden. Luckily, it didn't have very good reach and it didn't hit me, so I took it out with ease. Yeah, sure, I did take the easy way out, but if you didn't know already, the warden is extremely OP and can basically kill you in 2 shots, even if you're in full netherite. So I just didn't want to risk this world at this point as well. Making my way back home once again, I decided to use the diamonds that I had mined up earlier. And I decided to make a pedestal with diamond blocks, since honestly I didn't know what to do with all these diamonds. On top of the pedestal, I placed down one of the skulk sensors to honor the warden's not very good fighting. I then spent the next few days chopping down trees next to my house. I wanted to clear out the area as much as I could because this was going to be used for a few things. This took quite a while as there were so many trees, and not to mention, the trees were very big as well. After clearing out all the trees, I then decided to go ahead and flatten off the area, because I wanted a flattened out hill. This also took a little while, but we eventually got that done. With the flattened out area, I decided to do something with it, and that was to make up a few walls, because I wanted to move my dragons that I currently had onto the hill, because I think they would appreciate it as well, not being stuck in a hill all the time. So that's what I did. I built up the walls and then I moved all the dragons. Moving the dragons did take a little bit, but eventually I got there and they now had their new home. Finally, after moving the dragons, I decided I needed some more farms, just in case we do 200 days. So I went ahead and tilled the land. I then placed some water down and planted all my seeds. If we continue this into 200 days, we're going to have a lot of food. And finally, on day 100, I just waited for my dragons to grow to the maximum size. That was 100 days in better Minecraft. Should we do 200 days? Let me know in the comments down below.